Dear respected teacher, dear noble community, dear brothers and sisters, here in this hall as well as a little bit everywhere. I believe this morning we are streaming today's sharing, so our friends who are not able to come to Plum Village can also benefit from our presence, our collective energy. And this is a wonderful opportunity to actually sit here, but also try our best to be aware that we are also sitting a little bit everywhere. I wish I can see everywhere, people everywhere right now. Some of them are probably in their own apartment. Some of them is probably evening or another time, another angle of the sun. And they are probably smiling, enjoying being together. Although we should be separating ourselves and distancing ourselves. But we know that just remembering and thinking of each other, we can feel that connection and we can feel the closeness. Today is March 29th, and I believe, and I forgot this morning that it is is it the equinox? Or something, huh? It's just a time change, huh? Okay. It's definitely a shock. It's weird, huh? I get this man-made change. As well as in the last couple of days, we experienced here in Upper Hamlet in Plum Village a change in temperature. It went down below -2. And the week before, a few weeks before, it was quite warm. As I think that was the basic kind of understanding that, okay, we're out. Then it became cold again. I was ready to put away my thermals and stuff, and I took them back out. And I've been walking around and looking at the blossoms or the little buds, and kind of asking the buds, like, are you surprised? And I wonder whether the plants are wondering as well. It's like, what is happening? Why are things changing so unpredictably? I think I wonder if the plants think like we do. As human beings, we have that capacity to kind of like ask questions like that. But I wonder what the flowers are, how they're feeling it, like they're ready to go open and bloom. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, bring out the thermals again. Luckily, some of them still have their thermal, their protective shell. They haven't really shed those, so those might be okay. But some you notice are already blooming. I have a plant outside my room, and the leaf got a little bit frosted, and I think another night of that it probably will die. So we had to bring it back in, and luckily it it revived itself. So this is kind of a moment we are having as a planet, as a human species. And I think the whole planet, the ocean, the non-human elements have been asking these questions for a long time. What is happening to us? It's just we, as humans, we haven't been listening. The forests have been asking us, like, what is going on? the landscape of Australia has been asking that question. The Amazon have been asking, what is happening to us? The questions that we are asking ourselves now as a human family. Some of us have loved ones who are in sickness, who are in ill health. Some of us are in the sick bed as well. We are asking that question, what is happening to us? And this is a wonderful opportunity for us to, is a moment for us to listen as a planet, listen as not just a human species, but also listen to the cry of the other system, the other kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the mountain kingdom, the ocean kingdom. They were wondering. The ocean have been asking this question for the last 100 or so years since we discovered oil and plastics and so on. It was like, what is happening to me? What is happening to all our fishes? This is something. So I think we are at a moment, right? And really, that word has been really just in the back of my mind in the last week or so. The moment. This moment is a noble moment. In the same way that the suffering is a noble truth. And people usually ask, what is so about suffering? And why is it a truth? And so this is a moment for our humanity to stop, to seize the moment and ask ourselves what can we so when something is noble, what the Buddha's term is that it has something to teach us. So I think the word he uses is Abraham at that time, Brahman, which was really used to like the nobility of a higher class. But the Buddha used that word, he played with that word and he took it down and said, you want to know what is really noble? It is the truth that suffering can teach us something very deep. And I think this is a truth that we all, I imagine every one of you here in Plum Village have touched. And that is the reason why it brought you here. It brought you onto the path. Because you were able to touch a kind of suffering within yourself. Something deep, something very help you wake up to something. So when a truth is noble, it helps us wake up. It helps us see something that we didn't see before. So what we are experiencing as a human species, we have forgotten. We've gone through many pandemics, many periods in the past where a third of the population also died. So this is, as a human family, it's just we've forgotten. In our abundance, in our overpopulating the planet, we just forgot. And so I think somehow nature is reminding us, it's like, hey. So this moment, we have a chance to really stop and to look. So there's a chance here for liberation, to free ourselves from our ways of behaving and ways of thinking. So that's what it means when we think of noble. So I've been holding that in my heart and just praying, or how would you say, not to some higher being, but holding in awareness is a kind of prayer, to be mindful, to hold in our awareness as we eat, as we walk, as we sleep, and do what we need to do. Once in a while I would take a breath and I would say, this is a noble moment for our human family, for our loved ones, for all of us who are in fear, who are in blame, who are vulnerable. I just touched the, along with holding that hope, that chance, because the fear of what will happen you can go both ways, and in having studied human history, it can easily go either way, and that's what I've been holding. And so my tears come from that hope, that prayer, that a little bit everywhere on the planet, nurses, doctors, people in positions of power who have the means, that they also can touch this noble moment and awaken. And so I really, that's what, that's kind of like that's why it's kind of like borderline prayer. Kind of like sending it out there and say, I think there's a sutra that Thay shares about when the Buddha, calls and all the bodhisattvas. It's in, I think, the Avatamsa Sutra. And all the bodhisattvas kind of like spring up and they help. And we have many bodhisattvas right now. The nurses who sacrifice safety, their own family, their own well-being, so that they can help other people. The doctors who now have to stay away from their own loved ones, their family, because they are exposed to so many who are sick. These are not imaginary bodhisattva. And you can just imagine that kind of mind, the amount of sacrifice, your own safety, and your sacrifice to be near your loved ones, just for the sake of others who are in need, who are sick. There are those who are doing everything they can to connect to other people, even though they are isolated. I think in Italy it's most famous, right? Singing across the piazza. Can't touch, but they can sing. That's very beautiful, and everyone says, oh, those Italians. But the Italian poet recently wrote, wait, Americans, you will do the same. Except they will be singing different songs. So these bodhisattvas are springing up. And we need to keep this alive in our heart. It is both painful and also liberating. And that's what tears come from, you know. The tears of healing is both painful and liberating and healing. And this is what I pray those who are in places of power, who are, they somehow, you know, that they have a chance, that through their own suffering, that they will the connection to other people in more disadvantaged places, to see the connection that brings us all together. That is that's a noble awareness. And so we call these noble bodhisattvas. And so this is what the planet is communicating. This moment is a precious moment. And you know, our teacher has been teaching that his whole life, reminding us how precious, how wonderful is the present moment. Even in the midst of our own pain and suffering, we can use our breathing, our walking, our steps, to touch also the wonder of us now alive and healthy enough for those of us. So there's also the noble present moment. So today, I will share with you our practice, or how can we practice during this time. So like I shared, this moment can help us awaken to how precious it is to be living, to also how fragile we are, how vulnerable we are. And this is also a kind of awakening. I think the human species, we've become overconfident, sometimes a little bit arrogant in our, in our view of the planet, the environment, and other species. I think this moment can help us be a little bit more humble. I hope so. This is also a kind of prayer, because there are those who believe that we can fix this, we can overcome this and get back to normal really quickly. And science can do that. But this is just the beginning, I think, the course that we're going. So there's opportunities to seize this moment. And to do this as a practitioner, you need to come back to the basics. So meditation, the practice of mindfulness, can help us do this. First thing we need to do is to take care of ourselves. You cannot help, you cannot liberate, you cannot do anything unless you are taking care of yourself, you are in balance. So the breathing, we train in the breathing so we can come back to our body, come back to the present moment. This is very basic and very crucial at this moment in time. Right now, many of us are bombarded with news and media, and there's a tendency for us to project and to think about the future and ask what will happen, and our loved ones as well. And for us to become a refuge, we need to be stable, calm, and not be riled up by the emotion. So the mindfulness of the breath, coming back to the breath, let us weave that into our day, into our life. You might not be able to go anywhere, to go out to the park, but you always have a chance to breathe and know that you are alive. Your lungs are well. Yes, you have someone in your family who is sick. Yes, you have friends and loved ones who are ill with one form of sickness or another. But you cannot help if you are also not stable and cannot take care of yourself. So with just one breath can be a miracle. You can really bring your mind back to your body and not let it run with anxiety, fear, and a lot of projection. So anytime you recognize that is happening, your mind is being pulled away from your body, take a deep breath. You might even touch your finger and come back. This is called stopping. So right now, as a human species, we're having to stop. But us as an individual, as a practitioner, we also need to stop. I joked with an interviewer the other day that this is a moment where the whole planet is required to go on retreat, mandatory, and supported by all governments. And so actually the border for this rains retreat, planetary rains retreat, is even tighter than the Upper Hamlet monks. Huh? Our rains retreat, we would have our border that you cannot go out of, to include hiking trails up the church and around. But now the retreat, the border is even tighter. I think 100 meters now in France. It's 100 kilometers or something. 1 kilometer, yeah. Sorry, 100 kilometers. What can you do with that? And I think the time-wise, it's only 1 hour. Is that right? Yeah. 1 hour, 1 kilometer. What can you do much with that? Yeah, you could probably. I heard there was a woman who ran the marathon in her apartment. And she said it was a lot of fun. So this moment of stopping. So there's a big retreat for our planet, and some of us are not used to it. It's very difficult not to be busy. It's very difficult to be at home all day, all night. And it's difficult right now to might even be with our loved one 24 hours. And so the practice of taking care of oneself, making sure that you have that stability. So whatever is happening emotion-wise, please make time to take care of that, to turn the compost, as we say. So 2 things. 1, your body. 2, your emotion. Right now, those 2, very crucial. So we call it, the image you use is you build the island or you make the mountain. Right now, we need to, each one of us as practitioner, because we don't know what's going to happen, but we know being stable will help. So learning to take care of our feelings, our anxiety, not letting that push us back and forth. The stillness is very important. So please, in your retreat, global planetary retreat, please make time to take care of yourself. Find a corner, a room, some place, and breathe. Be still, be silent, away from disturbance, to take care of your body, your breath, and your feelings. The image we can use is the boat is rocking, and there are 100 people on that boat. Everyone is fearful, jumping around. And you have to ask yourself, where do I rely on? Who can I rely on the boat? Where can I find safety on this boat, this planet? And so the person who sits still on the boat doesn't contribute to the rocking. So that's a very wonderful image to use. We need stability, stable people, still. And from that stillness, clarity comes. So we don't move and act and think from a place of fear, anxiety, because that will lead to animal instinct. You know, the fright and flight, the fright and fight, or even freeze and become like, shocked and despair. Those come because of we cannot handle our emotion. They trigger the animal instinct. And from that, we usually blame. And this is where it's very dangerous. We will make another group, and out of the other. And then, you know what happens with that from the history of our human behavior. It's very dangerous when collectively we are in fear. After the 9/11 incident in America, Thay was in California first and then New York. And the message during that tour, when right after that had happened, because the whole American country was in fear and they wanted to react right away and to cause more violence. And it was very dangerous at that time to tell everyone to stop and not to go to war. But that was the recommendation from many spiritual leaders, including our teacher. When there's fear, collectively, it becomes a very powerful force for violence and destruction. We usually find something to blame. So at this moment, there's a lot of fear. And right now, luckily, it's not luckily, but it's uniformly indiscriminate of any type of people. It's, so it's everyone is being affected across class, across nations, across borders, across ethnicity, across religion. So I think that's a kind of a blessing. So there isn't anyone to blame. But we do have that tendency from fear. So we really need to take care of our emotion. and contribute to the stillness, the clarity. So the stillness brings the clarity. And from that clarity, we can really look at this noble moment and contribute to the collective insight, the collective awakening. And this kind of deep looking is not lost. When we realize this, when we touch this, and we can hold this kind of deep looking, this awareness, this insight of interbeing, of humility, of fragility, of vulnerability, it affects the others. So this is something also as a bodhisattva work that we all need to first take care of ourselves. You can't do anything if your mind is in fear, anxiety, busyness. So come in touch with that. So stability brings clarity. The clarity, you're able to hold an insight, a kind of hold compassion, hold non-discrimination. These energies hold love. So if you can keep that in your heart, you are a bodhisattva right now. So this is what we need right now as a collective. Everyone hold on to that and send it out. Wi-Fi, every step, send it out. And this is something during walking meditation we can do. I'll read with you a quote from Thay about fearlessness. So when we are clear and our mind is can see things deeply, it can help us touch a state of fearlessness, something bigger. And I quote Thay, if we can model the ability to embody non-fear and non-attachment, it is more precious than any money or material wealth. Fear spoils our lives and makes us miserable. We cling to objects and people like a drowning person clings to any object that floats by. By practicing non-attachment and sharing this wisdom with others, we give the gift of non-fear. Everything is impermanent. This moment passes. The object of our craving walks away, but we can know happiness is always possible. So the greatest gift, they say a bodhisattva can give, a nurse, a doctor, someone caring for a sick person, is their fearlessness. And the story or the image sometimes I use, you cannot help anyone. A doctor cannot help if the doctor gets, is fearful and not stable. So that this is something, a gift that we can offer to our loved ones. But we need to have that nourish and maintain that insight. And how can we touch this? This fearlessness, and by deep looking. So this is the other aspect of mindfulness practice. It helps us stop. And when we stop regularly enough, and we are stable and still enough, the other aspect of meditation, it helps us see things, deep looking. And here when we, what can we look at? Like I asked the question, why is this a noble moment? What makes this a noble moment? So you explore. There's pain, our loved ones, my father, my mother, they are at risk. My father is sick. What can we learn from this? How can I help being over here? So the deep looking is a kind of maintaining an awareness of the moment, and if your mind is clear, asking the right questions. The image of deep looking is like a butterfly. When the butterfly stops on the flower, it is the first aspect of meditation. It begins to stop and see the flower. And then the butterfly moves around the flower. That's deep looking. It's exploring the flower. So when we are stable, our breath, and we are established in the present moment, our mind is not dispersed, then we can use those moments to look deeply at what is happening. Why is happening? Why is this happening? So don't just wait for the news and the numbers, but you can actually use meditation to touch a deeper truth. It's not, this didn't come out from nowhere. So in Buddhism, the frame of looking is condition, causes and condition. We look at the conditions that has brought this moment about. How have we behaved as a human species? There's a moment where I was reflecting how, imagining myself maybe several hundred years ago, maybe 8,000 years ago, 800, when we didn't have much, our science was not developed. And I imagine myself actually getting to my knees and praying. Yeah, why is this happening? Where is this plague taking over and killing everyone? But we are in the 21st century, and science, technology is quite quick, and it is almost like a gift that we are connected in this World Wide Web, that we know that this is happening not just in one country, but hundreds of countries. And it's happening to everyone. So they say this is the first pandemic in modern history where there's social media. Yeah, like an Italian sings across the window, the whole planet knows. I mean, that is a kind of interbeing. Yeah, someone, passes away, causes an infection, and the whole planet knows and has a graph of where this person went. So in a way, we are our insight, our deep looking in our modern times is, how do you say it? Is informed, as well as we know that it is our own causing. That's what I want to share. It's like, it's not like some weird person up there or some other foreign force that is causing this. It is known, it is informed, but we need to go deeper and look deeper. So this is where the Buddhist teaching comes in about condition arising. When something arises, it has conditions for it. It's quite in line with the way the science approach things, to look at how, as a human species, as a planet, how we've been organizing and behaving that caused this. And it's not one cause or one place. We have to see the system, the whole economic, social, cultural, political system that supports. Just the fact of transportation in itself, reflecting on that. We value and we praise so much the global interconnected transport system that we have. We can go anywhere, anytime. Now I think this is giving us new insights that is not such a good idea. Sometimes it's a crossing. I think of what happened to the Native Americans in the Turtle Island, what we call America, when the Europeans came and they brought the viruses from Europe. It wiped out a whole population, and they had no idea back then what happened. But it was actually in the sharing of blankets and things out of goodness of heart, the whole population was ill, got sick, and disappeared. So this is something has never happened in a human family. I think now with and we were so proud of our transportation system. I think now we can be humble to it. And now actually you see how precious it is to actually go out, right? Now that we are confined and isolated. So what are some tools for us to use? As a meditator, we can use the frame of impermanence. Very helpful right now to hold on, like think of impermanence as a pair of glasses that you put on. So there's a way of looking at things, and we have to train to look like that and not wait until it's too late. So everything that is precious to us, that we are attached to, that we cling on to, including our health, our fingernails, our hair, our teeth. So that you keep that awareness when you brush your teeth. So it's not just like illness and death. Your clothing, the plastics, the shelter that we have, the food. So we begin to look with the eye of impermanence. Our breathing. So when we sit, we can look deeply using the insight of impermanence. Contemplate our breath. Where does it go? Breathing in. Where is my in-breath? Breathing out. Where is my out-breath now? Can I stop this change of in and out? Where does this in-breath, this oxygen, this air coming in my lungs come from? Can I stop it from changing? Does my in-breath die? Does it become the out-breath? So each moment we have an opportunity when we come back to our breath, to come in touch with impermanence, which is another word for life. Life is happening because of in and out of birth and death. But it's very easy to forget because we are habitual animals and habitual thinkers, and we take things for granted very easily. So that's why the training, the practice of coming back and stopping, stealing and looking and remembering. So mindfulness also means, the word smriti also means to remember. And so it's not really a correct translation to say that smriti is mindfulness. Smriti is also to remember, to recollect. In this moment, I am changing. My family, my loved ones changing. Everything is changing. And so we train to look at that. That is a deeper way of looking at things. We suffer because we don't want things to change. That is what the Buddha realized. And that's a noble truth. At life, everything is impermanent. And we suffer because we don't accept that. Impermanence is our teacher. It is what makes the truth noble. Because it wakes us up. And in this moment, is a very rare moment, because collectively we are all confronting a threat that is right in front of our door. And I think we only change when we feel threatened, right? It's hot. I shouldn't touch that again. Or wait until we have no more food. And then people really start to change. But the planet has been changing because of our human activities. And it's been communicating that to us. Very much like the liver communicates, hardened. And we know that there's pain. But as a planet, as a human species, somehow it was not such a threat yet. Kind of like, I noticed the weather is starting to change. I know it's not very stable anymore, is it, happy farmers? Something is not predictable anymore. Or like certain parts of the world, they're losing their property. The salt water, the ocean is affecting. But it's news, right? So we don't really, we've been calling the climate movement activists have been asking for both systematic change and personal lifestyle change. But it's very difficult, the lifestyle change. One of the most difficult front right now is to convert from meat eating to veganism or vegetarian even. It's very difficult. If you did that, many people are like tiptoeing. It's only recently it's become like one of the, but like maybe 2 years ago, during the COP21 in Paris, during that agreement, there was no mention about meat eating. In fact, we proposed it and they said, no, we cannot say that. Now it's become a major part of, our ability to change is very hampered because that is not in front of us. I remember, I imagine a year ago, the brothers and sisters were thinking about how to get the Dharma teachers not to fly less. How to fly less, to fly around giving Dharma talks and stuff. And I remember one brother was like, no, that's not going to happen. I mean, what would happen to all the retreatants? They would go crazy. Just to imagine that we won't fly around to teach the Dharma, let alone the whole planet stop flying. Like a year ago, you tell me that, and I would react like my brother reacted to the proposal that the Dharma teachers don't fly. It's like, you crazy. You think people, they would never stop flying. But you see what is possible? The human potential to cooperate and change is possible. This is what makes it a noble moment. We are realizing actually that we, as a whole planet, can coordinate and change a behavior, a major behavior, international flying. Why is that? Impermanence, death. Everyone's afraid of dying, of course. But that will, you want to change? Somehow we need to bring that into the climate movement. How do we do that? I mean, if it's threatening the dolphins, the oceans, the forests, it's like, yeah. Sure, the Amazon is, but I still have oxygen. I have a little humorous side of me, and I know this is a serious topic. The other day, a few of us, my brother and some of the happy farmers, we sat on Thay's deck in the morning to drink tea and watch the sunrise. It was a very noble moment to come in touch with Mother Earth and our Father, Son, the source of life, of everything living on this planet. This really with our ecosystem and the sun. And we realized that morning, and we kind of knew, but it was the first time we saw the sunrise with completely no, what do you call those things? Trails? The contrails. It was clear blue sky, except one plane. I think Phap took a picture. Unbelievable. I've sat there many mornings, and I always count at least 10 airplanes after 2.5, 3 hours of sitting there. That morning, completely, I wanted to take it for Thay, because I remember we would sit with Thay and to eat breakfast or something, and always these trails, and it would just spread out and becomes these geometric clouds, But anyway, if anything, we had a moment like that on the planet, and we thought that would not be possible. So noble moment does not mean just suffering. It's also a wonderful moment. So in the waking up that makes us the moment noble, there's also the waking up to the wonder of life, the wonder of impermanence. And this is not to play down that when things change in our family, our loved ones get sick, ill, and die, that we don't suffer pain. This is also part of the human experience. So please hold that frame, remember those glasses, especially when things change and emotions rise. Come back, still yourself, and touch that noble truth. Of course, we can also touch in impermanence the vulnerability of the breath, of our health, of our loved ones, of the environment. And I think this is something that can help us. I hope we can hold on to that insight, how vulnerable we are as a human species, realizing that and taking that awareness and seeing it, applying it to other systems, the animal, the environment, the ocean, how frail it is. This is something I hope we can maintain, the vulnerability of our biosphere. Very delicate. I would like to read a text from Thay at this moment, from the letters to Mother Earth, and it's one. I'll read one letter about our stability and patience. Dear Mother Earth, you are this infinite, beautiful blue planet, fragrant, cool, and kind. Your immeasurable patience and endurance makes you a great bodhisattva. Even though we've made many mistakes, you always forgive us. Every time we return to you, you are ready to open your arms to embrace us. Whenever I'm unstable, every time I lose touch with myself, or I'm lost in forgetfulness, sadness, hatred, or despair, I know I can come back to you. Touching you, I can find a refuge. I can reestablish my peace and regain my joy and self-confidence. You love, protect, and nurture all of us without discrimination. You have an immense capacity to embrace, handle, and transform everything that is cast at you, whether it is great asteroids, refuge, filth, poisonous fumes, or radioactive waste. Time helps you to do this, and your history has shown that you've always succeeded, even if it takes 1,000,000 years. You were able to establish equilibrium after the devastating collision that created the moon, and have endured at least 5 mass extinctions, reviving yourself every time. Extraordinary capacity to renew, transform, and heal yourself, and also us, your children. I have faith in your great power of healing. My faith comes from my own experience, not from something others have told me to believe. That is why I know I can take refuge in you. As I walk, sit, and breathe, I can surrender myself to you, trust wholly in you, and I'll allow you to heal me. I know I don't have to do anything at all. I relax, release all the tension in my body, and all the fears and worries in my mind. Whether I'm sitting or walking, lying down or standing, I allow myself to take refuge in you and I allow myself to be held and healed by you. I entrust myself to you, Mother Earth. Each one of us needs a place of refuge, but we may not know how to find it or how to get there. Looking deeply today, I can see that my true home, my true place of refuge is you, my beloved planet. I take refuge in you, Mother Earth. I do not have to go anywhere to find you. You are already in me, and I'm already in you. Dear Mother Earth, each time I sit in stillness on your earth, I will be aware that because you are in me, I can embody your wonderful qualities of solidity, perseverance, patience, and forbearance, of depth, endurance, and stability, of great courage, non-fear, and inexhaustible creativity. I vow to practice wholeheartedly to realize these qualities, knowing that you have already shown these potentials as seeds in the soil of my heart and mind. And here we use the word I and you as the whole humanity. I think this moment, this letter expresses our untrusting ourselves, that the lessons we need to learn will go deep in our consciousness, that will transform us. So one last frame we can use for our reflection in this moment to help us look deeply at what is happening, what our teacher called interbeing, the frame of interbeing. The first one, impermanence. Second one, interbeing, the way to look at things. I think this is something we're waking up to, just the fact of illness in itself, of our common ancestry, that we are vulnerable. This connects us all. The suffering makes us very aware that there is the barrier between you and me is very, very fine. And to look at the interbeing nature of our planet. That what we do to one species, one eco-biosystem, the water, the forest, the mountain, the snow, the air, we are doing to ourselves. This is, if nobody is getting this message, you know, we call it what they have, avian flu, swine flu. They have a human flu yet? It's in naming it, we feel it should wake us up and see the pain that we have caused to the animal kingdom. Not just the plant kingdom and the mineral kingdoms. So out of our ignorance, our greed, our arrogance, we treat and we exploit. And so this moment, this noble moment, wakes us up to the fact we're very well informed and we're very well studied, still to be understood. that when we cause suffering to an animal kingdom, a species, that it has ramification. And I hope this informs our exploration into the genetic kingdom, that we become much more cautious in our exploration of nature, and to see it as something we can exploit for our own greed and exploitive nature motives, to use for our own benefit at the cost of something else that we are very oblivious to. This web, I think this is something, this interbeing insight is, I just hope it just really goes into people. Of course, those who have, that's why it's important to take care of ourselves now, to do what we need to do, to take care of our loved ones, to find that stability and that clarity again, so that we can actually maintain this insight and help our collective awakening. This is the moment, the calling, the earth is calling. I think she has been calling, but we have been listening, and we have been denying. And now I think we are paying the price, some of us, our families, and our culture. And yeah, we are losing a lot of our culture, our liberties, our ability to interact. We can't hug now. Yesterday I hugged somebody and he said, it's like, we're made to hug, like we're, or like at least, and in a month, it's like, but what if it lasts a little bit longer? Can you handle a year without touching another human being? I mean, anyways, maybe not everybody has that problem, but I have a habit of tapping people and touching people, and it's very difficult. 6 feet. I think that's a real loss to humanity. There's like a cost besides the illness, sickness, and death. There's also a cost to the human spirit. We're not meant to be in a little apartment. People are, it's probably very difficult for some now who are not as stable. So I'm aware of that. It's not everyone can handle that. So we can walk and we can sit with them and hold them in our heart. So they interbeing, one place, suffer on the planet, one person, one loved one. We also suffer when one person dies on the planet. There's a real death too as a human family. This is something, a shared, it's a gift, but also a curse to feel the pain of lost one. But that pain right there can also be a blessing, because it can wake us up. The interbeing between suffering and happiness. So through the difficulty and the challenge, there can also be a wonder, a miracle, a nobleness to it. This moment contains both suffering and nobleness. So you don't say, oh, there's suffering. No, suffering helps teach us. So it's not suffering and la la la, okay, I accept suffering. But suffering teaches us to value the wonders of life, the wonder of the impermanence, of change. So into being, to look with that. Try to find an element that is separate from, isolated from everything else. Now that you're isolated in your room, in your home, you now know what you depend on. You need some tissue, some toilet paper. Where does that come from? Who brings the toilet paper to you? The food, the vegetable. Who's going to go pick it? Who's making those masks that is so rare now? Where did it come from? So being aware of our dependence on each other can be liberating and makes us feel less separate and dependent on each other. Is a very good thing, because the last century or two, we have lived very differently, very individualistic. So I will end here to just share some for those who are isolated. Please take care of yourself. Take care of your body. Find a good rhythm. Create yourself a retreat schedule. Find a rhythm. The secret to monastery life is we have a rhythm. And the rhythm changes depending on the season. So if you're at home, please make yourself a rhythm. And part of that rhythm is to find this place to take care of yourself. The other is to make some time to nourish yourself with play, with fun, with joy, something you enjoy to do. The brothers have been playing volleyball, not really 6 feet apart, but we're trying our best. But we also need nourishment. So don't be in that depressed state always. And so be careful of what you read in the media. Ask yourself, what is it nourishing? This is very important right now, that we protect and guard our senses, so it can, it doesn't go towards that blame. Sometimes the media, I'm hoping that they are more aware of what seeds they're watering when they report. So there when you take care of yourself, you have the energy, the stability to take care of your loved ones when they are in need. So this is, and there are things for us to contribute to, our stability, our fearlessness. So when you talk to someone, you email someone, water that seed in them. You use it to water their compassion, their patience, their stability. More people and more of those kinds of mind. And I was sharing that I've been praying different from my mom. Well, not so different. In moments like this, my mom will hold her Kuan Yin. She has like a jade Kuan Yin. She'll hold on to it. And she would pray for goodness. I remember as a child, I just see her doing that a lot. And at this moment, actually, she's chanting. Every morning she wakes up and she chants. And she watches the Dharma talk. So it's a little different now. But it's a wonderful habit, so that it keeps your mind focused on love, kindness, compassion. So you water the good seeds. So prayer is, in a way, a kind of reminder. Sometimes we think of prayer as something that we have to pray to some higher source to help. But prayer is also remembering of being mindful. So you can pray when you walk, when you eat. So prayer is also a coming back to something beyond ourselves, our fear, our thinking, our anxiety. So we can pray as a planet. And so we can come in touch with that. Lately, I've been thinking about the cell. There's what's his name? Lewis. Author is where I wrote The Living Cell. It's a life of a living cell. And that is helping me right now to see our planet as a living cell, and that it is actually adjusting and finding healing for itself. That's bringing me a lot of trust. So I'm having that's where my trust is coming from, as our planet, as a living cell that is adjusting. The last 2 centuries, we've unfortunately, and I don't want to play down the sickness and the death that is happening. But humans, we've become kind of like a cancer to the planet. And that's something many of us, we don't want to accept. But we've caused the planet a lot of pain. And so this is the planet adjusting. And this moment here with the virus, I think, I know, I read some numbers compared to suicide, crash. I don't want to diminish the loss of loved ones, but we have caused human death much more, it's in greater numbers with social illness than what is happening. It's just, this is quite novel, so we are, it's good news. And so this is something to be aware of, that this is, human death is, that people are, not only, even the sick loved ones, they cannot, like my father, we cannot visit. That's something also very hard for people who are in sickness now. Not only of dying, that they're dying, but they cannot be close to their loved ones. So this is quite a price that we are paying, very, very, for a human family. So thank you for coming together. and as a community, as a sangha, here and a little bit everywhere. And we please know that we are keeping you and everyone in our heart, and then to have the trust that planet Earth, Mother Earth, that we can come out of this a little bit more enlightened of what is happening to our planet, to our human species. And we pray that each one of us can find that stability, that stillness, so that we can be a refuge for our loved ones and for our neighbors and other animals and plants. So this is a deep connection that we have. And let us each keep that alive wherever we are, so that we can collectively, do this. I imagine each one of us can maintain that, and we are like vibrating cells in this planet organism, and then that will have some ramification for a collective awakening. So please take care, and we will see you again. Yeah, thank you for your listening and being present. Lewis Thomas, that's what it is. Sorry, had the book under here.